New England Women's and Children's Hospital in Boston for a few years. And then she decided to move to California. And when she got here, she became very active in the community and was, for example, the founder of the Home Club. And it was a time when women and men were being involved in clubs. It was one of the things people did with their free time, wealthy people did with their free time. And of course the men's clubs are sort of well known. The women's clubs tended to be more recreational and social. And she wanted to create a club that would be a social service club. And so the first club that she became involved with, she founded it, was called the Home Club. And she knew that there was an epidemic of tuberculosis in Oakland. And she understood that if the dairy cattle had tuberculosis, it would be passed through in the milk. And so she got a bunch of volunteer women doctors to go out to the dairy farms and test the cattle for tuberculosis and wipe out the tuberculosis in the farms, and then tuberculosis was wiped out in Oakland because of the work of the Home Club. And so she was just very, socially engaged and wanted to do the right thing. So she practiced medicine, interestingly, she practiced medicine in West Oakland. But she also took the ferry across the river to work in the Pacific, the bank, the Pacific Women and Children's Hospital in San Francisco.
She had several clinics in San Francisco before she permanently had her practice here. And they told us at the library, the cultural heritage people, that area of West Oakland was populated by people who took the ferry to San Francisco to work. So it doesn't seem that close to the bay to me, but...
The other fun thing about Dr. Buckle is that when her cousin Washington, who was the governor of California, became ill, he chose, instead of using his previous position, he chose to be treated by his cousin. And so he became ill in Sacramento only 8 months after he had been inaugurated into office. He returned to the Bay Area, and instead of going to his home in San Francisco, is that where he was? Yeah. Instead of going to San Francisco, he went to Dr. Buckle's house. And that's...
On 14th Street.
On 14th Street. And she cared for him. And she had a friend, Dr. Shuey, S-H-U-E, Sarah Shuey, who also came in, moved into the home with her, and helped care for him. And he had kidney disease. And there's a very interesting and enjoyable sort of set of letters and articles back and forth in the Chronicle of the time, because the San Francisco Chronicle wanted to know why his regular doctor was not treating him. And they made it very clear that they thought that the governor should be treated by his regular physician. And they wanted Dr. Buckle to reveal all the details, all the information about her patient's condition. And so for a while she holds him up. She says, sorry, doctor-patient privilege. And then the Chronicle starts speculating, did he know this when he was running for office? Just like they do today. What was his physical health at the time he ran for office? And there was all this speculation and so on. And they kept pushing her and pushing her to reveal his health. So finally, and what I think is a rather humorous article, she writes this long article back to the Chronicle. And she details his whole medical situation. And she says things like, today at 11:38, he produced 22 cc's of amber-colored urine. And she goes all the way through this stuff, like over several days' time. So she finally does cave in, but I think it's with a bit of a twinkle in her eye that she does this. And sadly, the governor had a fatal kidney disease, and he passed. He died in her home, and that was
September 12th, 1887.
1887. And then she, and then her life went on, and she delivered a lot of babies, and was
her
very...
specialty was women and children. She always worked in children's hospitals and clinics. I think it's just an interesting story.
Fascinating story.
The two of them together and separately.
Mm-hmm. And so she then moved from Oakland to here at that point?
And she moved to Well, she moved up here. I think she probably moved up here in '06 because one of the newspaper stories we had says that Charlotte has been living in a bungalow in Piedmont since '06. So my thought is that after the earthquake, Dr. Buckle and Charlotte Flater probably lived in a little bungalow here. And then they decided to adopt a child, and they adopted the child in June of '06, just 2 months after the earthquake. They adopted my granddaughter. And so the big house next door wasn't built and finished until 1907. So my guess is the three of them lived here in the bungalow. Now I don't know that yet.
While the other house is being built.
While the other house is being built.
But the house previously had been a bungalow, a Piedmont hilltop getaway for whoever, her friends and everything. At some point they decided they were a couple, and they decided to build this house, this spectacular house next door, and it all worked out fine. They apparently owned all the land. And then they moved into that house, and then this house, of course, she wasn't there for very long. She died when?
Dr. Buckle died 6 years later.
Okay, 6 years later. So at that point, this house was just now an extra house.
I've seen one reference to the bungalow as a servant's quarters.
I see. And I heard later on it had become a school of some sort, believe it or not.
No, I haven't heard that.
I can't remember, as I recall, some small,
I haven't heard that.
yeah.
We'll keep looking.
Wow, all right. Any other goodies?
I know, that's all pretty good,
That's
isn't it?
pretty fantastic. All right, thank you. We'll go down and take a...
we hope to, by talking to Gail Lombardi, we hope to understand the relationship between these two properties and when they were bought. And that would be kind of interesting. I mean, we're thinking it was a Plater property, actually. And when did these become separate lots and stuff like that? It's kind of interesting.
It makes me wonder why the people even sold this for a lousy $20,000 back when my folks bought it.
Yeah.
Had a house here, they had the whole massive property. I mean, maybe they were short of cash.
Well, $20,000 in those days was probably more like
100. Yeah, right. Yeah, but still, my goodness sake. We'll go take a look, folks. And now to show you, now to really surprise you.
Yes.